For illustration purposes in this episode, if you're listening to this, and these are recorded for you to listen to, it's a lot easier to listen to these on the podcast than it is to watch the video. We try not to do crazy editing on the video or like all this B-roll or, effects or all that stuff, because it's really more of a tactical, how do I get stuff done, as opposed to just like constant like screen sharing and stuff like that. I was on a call. I will not use real numbers or real people just to keep like everything private, but I think the concept that you'll learn will be very similar. If you're in a rut right now, or maybe the team is not where it needs to be, or whether you're trying to grow a team, or maybe you're a solo agent, or you're on a team, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we all have a goal, something that like we're aspiring to connect with or aspiring to achieve. It could be a level of GCI that we want to hit, could be sales volume, could be number of transactions, could be a higher average sales price. Like maybe you're at 400, you want to get to 800 this year because you figured out that the work is like pretty much the same, and there's no reason to be serving, clients at lower price points, even though they need help. Like, don't take that the wrong way. It's just as hard to close $1 million deal as it is a $300,000 deal. So we should have a goal for you this year to get that average sales price up as much as you can. Sure, there's some nuances that are different, but it's the same contract, right? It's the same process. It's just, can you adapt to that specific client? If you are not where you need to be, or the team's not growing where it needs to grow, or the business isn't growing at the level that it needs to grow, the self-audit that you need to look at, and I'll give you an example of a real life thing that happened this week, is like, what are the numbers that I'm doing week in and week out that I actually can control? We can't really control how many people view your videos on Instagram. I mean, you can make better videos. You can post more often. You can learn, the posting times in your market. You can figure out, is it a post? Is it a quote? Is it a carousel? Is it a reel? Is it the time of the day? Like, there's all these things that we can do to probably manipulate where the results are those. But at the end of the day, you really don't have that much control over how many people see your content, other than getting better and looking at the analytics. But what we can do is we can control how many times a day that we post. That's really important. Right? So with phone calls specifically, can't control how many people are answering the call. We can't control the people that are answering the call. Like, it's kind of, yes, they're leads. Yes, they came in from Meta or Google or, like sign calls or Zillow or wherever they're coming from in your business. But we can't really control the motivation they have when they answer the call. So the only thing that we can control is the amount of outbound that we do to reach those things. So the first thing that I would do is I would look at the last 30 days and I would say, what is the output that I desire in the business? And for most of us, it's the number of appointments we go on versus the number of clients we sign. That's like the main metric that everything should be revolving around. The number of people that we meet with and the number of times of those meetings we sign a client. That is the most important metric. Everything after that is fulfillment and delivery. Everything before that is marketing, advertising, and sales. I'll give that to you again. Most important metric in your business, for the most part, is how many appointments am I going on and how many times am I converting those appointments to a sale. Everything after that is delivery and fulfillment. Everything before that is marketing and advertising. Sales is that middle part. Even though sales is kind of like the entire funnel, sales is really that middle point, your ability to articulate why you're different than everybody else and convince them that you're their only option for success. So if you're not where you need to be, look at your last 30 days and say, okay, well, how many appointments did I actually go on where people showed up? Hey, really quick, I want to interrupt this video and let you know that you can actually digest all different parts of all of these videos in our twice a week email that gives you everything that you need to know to grow an inbound business here in 2026. It's totally free. Just go to steveolsongroup.com/email and you can register there. I'll send you every episode we do. You can consume whatever you want. And then also, while you're at it, subscribe to this YouTube channel. It helps us grow. So thanks for listening to this. Let's get back to the episode. Setting appointments for no-shows, that's important to track. But at the end of the day, we need to be able to build that into the percentages. We won't talk about that on this episode so much. But how many appointments did I go on? And more importantly, how many of those people acknowledged, signed on the dotted line, like physically committed to me as being their real estate agent, whether that was they want to buy a home in the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months, 1 year. It doesn't matter how many client commitments that I get based on those appointments. And you're going to look at your calendar and you're going to say, I like where the number is. I'm mid where the number is, or I'm falling way short of where the number is, okay? So that's the first thing that we're going to look at. The next thing we're going to look at is say, okay, well, maybe I went on 4 appointments for the entire month and I signed two clients. Great. At least we have somewhere to start with. And let's say that's below where you want to be. So the next lagging, or you can even say leading indicator to that number was how many times you physically picked up the phone and had a conversation. How many times you physically sent an SMS. How many times you physically sent an email that had the intent of moving that conversation to the next stage. An email that says, hey, how are you doing? Just checking in. I don't really know that that really makes a difference. Now, when they respond to that email and that opens a dialogue and then the email gets sent of, hey, I think we should go grab coffee at Tuesday at 4, I think that's okay. That email counts. But the first email, maybe not so much. So how many outbound phone calls are you making with the intent of setting an appointment? How many outbound SMSs are you sending with the intent of either having a phone call, like, because I believe that email and SMS is a bridge to the phone if you do it right? How many of those are you sending? And just track that number. So look, if it's 50 a week, phone calls, like 5 a day or maybe 10 a day or whatever the number is, and maybe you're sending like 4 or 5 text messages and maybe 10 emails a day, don't get frustrated. Just know that, okay, well, I don't necessarily know that those 4 appointments that I did that month maybe came from those activities, but I know that I did the activities and I know that I had this result. So we're just going to assume they're attached, right? Until the data tells us otherwise. So the action plan that I'm looking for right now is, okay, well, I did, 40 phone calls this week, or I made 40 dials. I only had, and again, I'm not emotional over how many people answer the phone. There's nothing that I can do with that, right? I sent so many outbound text messages. I sent so many outbound emails. And when I did those activities, I ended up going on 2 appointments that week, and I converted 1 to a client and 1 elected to go somewhere else. Now we have a foundation to track against. So the only action plan you need to worry about is like, what if the only thing that I did between last month and this month was take all those outreach numbers and I just doubled them? So what we tend to do as real estate agents is we tend to say like, what's terminal velocity and how do I go all in and just freaking crush this and be like the most dominant person in my market? Like we tend to go to extremes. And then what happens is we don't have the systems to be able to manage the extremes. Maybe we don't have the CRM, or we don't have the infrastructure or the support or the people or the VAs, or heck, even just like straight willpower. Maybe we don't possess any of that stuff. And then what happens is we attempt to go all in. It doesn't work because we hit burnout and then we get demotivated and then we go look at another shiny penny. That's a colossal mistake. So what I would do if I was you in your business is I would look at your business and I would say, like, of the numbers or of whatever they are, it's cool. Just find somebody to be accountable. Send them to your wife, send them to boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, brother, sister, mom, dad, doesn't matter. Just say, hey, this is my commitment for the business. This is what I did last month. This is what I'm committed to next month. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to send an email every single day over what those results were. No judgment. You don't need to yell at me. You don't need to coach me. You don't need to tell me how I get back. I just need somebody that I know is paying attention and that knows what my goal is. So the only thing that I would do is I would take the numbers that you weren't excited about and I would double them. That's it. And at the end of next month, review it again. Did you get the same output? Was the output linear? Meaning, like, if you doubled, like if you had 4 appointments and signed 2 clients, if we double the outreach, did that get me to 8 appointments and 4 clients, right? Sometimes it doesn't, it's not linear. And there is like a law of diminishing returns. You do so much and the results tend to stop coming in. But I can tell you at those numbers, we're close, right? Just so we're clear. This works the same for ads. If your ads aren't doing, like, let's say you're spending a little bit of money on ads and they're doing okay, like, don't change the ad, just double the ad spend and keep doubling the ad spend until the numbers no longer hold true, right? Because normally that's the path of least resistance to success, is just to do more. If something's already working, don't change it. Don't add to it. Just do more of that very thing and see if the numbers hold true all the way through. This specific team, they had a number of deals that they were under contract with. And if you knew the number of deals we're talking about, you'd be like, oh, I'd love to have a business that has that many deals under contract. But they are behind in the goal. And he's like, hey, man, I'm really worried about being behind the goal. So the first thing, pull up the CRM, pull up all, dozens of real estate agents, and let's look at how many calls the team is making per day. No judgment, no frustration, none of that. Let's just see what the number is. So we pulled it up and he's like, oh, not nearly as high as I would have thought it would have been. And I said, okay, first logical question is, how often are you looking at this? And he goes, well, I'm like, never. You're never looking at this, right? So you need to be looking at this on a daily level because it's easy to correct mistakes as they happen. Like, think of an argument you had with your spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, friend, relative, whatever. Like, over an event that happened 3 months ago. It's really hard to have that argument because you're like, it's been 90 days. Why are we talking about this right now? So it's easier to correct the mistakes in real time than it is looking at the past. So I would look at the numbers every single day. I'd have no judgment of where they are right now. I would only have judgment on what I could do to manipulate the result right now. And the only thing that we can do to manipulate those results is do more of the things that we can control, which is outbound calls, outbound SMS, outbound email. There's really nothing else we can do outside of that. So action plan for you on this really simple one. If you're not where you need to be, look at the appointments, look at the signed clients. Now, we didn't even talk about getting better at the appointment. We'll leave that for later. Whatever that conversion rate is, leave the conversion rate at as it is. I just need you to have more at-bats, because the more at-bats you have, the more appointments you go on, like naturally, unless you're like completely unqualified, it's going to get better. You with me on that? And then from there, look at all the leading indicators that cause those appointments and just say, like, what's one thing that I can improve this week? Like, you can throw one Hail Mary. That would be okay. Maybe you go all in on SMS because you feel really comfortable doing SMS. That would be okay. But you need to be able to track it. This leads me with my last point to point number 1 of today's podcast. If you don't know the data, you can't move forward. Like you're just making emotional decisions. And I know this because I've been in this spot as well. Without the data, our decision-making process is normally fairly emotional. We don't want the decision-making process being emotional. We want it based on data, because when we continue to make data-driven decisions, the numbers will tell you where the path to success is.